The days after my visit to Bojonegoro felt heavy. Like something unseen was brushing against the edge of our lives, watching, listening, waiting. I started having dreams. The same one every night. I'm standing at the edge of the forest, looking into the darkness. Something is there behind the trees, not moving, just waiting. I never see its full shape, but I feel its presence. And every time I wake up, I'm sweating, heart pounding like I barely escaped something. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just trauma from what happened. But then strange things started happening again. Gunter called one morning, his voice low and shaky. Someone was knocking on his window at 1 in the morning. The first time he thought it was just wind. But the second night he saw it clearly. A hand, pale, long fingers, slowly tapping on the glass. He didn't open the curtain. He didn't move. The knocking lasted 10 minutes, then silence. When he checked in the morning, no footprints, no signs, just a cold spot on the glass. Putri also said she heard someone calling her name while she was alone at home. It came from the back of the house, but when she opened the door, no one was there. We started meeting every evening again, just to feel safe, to talk to each other, to stay sane. One night while we were sitting outside, the warring Raka said something that chilled us all. "I don't think it ever left," he whispered. "It's not done with us." Gunter nodded slowly. "Maybe we stopped her, but not what controls the forest. Not what lives deeper." The thought made my skin crawl. If that was true, then what was the next step? What did it want? We went back to Bojonegoro the next day. He looked even more tired than before, like something had been weighing on him. We told him about the knocking, the voice, the dreams. He stayed quiet for a long time, then said, "You're marked, now all of you. The forest knows you. You've stepped beyond the veil." I asked him if we were cursed. "No," he replied slowly, "not cursed, but noticed. That can be worse. You've walked too close to something that remembers." Putri asked, "Is there any way to be forgotten?" Again, Bojonegoro looked at the incense burning on his table. "There is one way, but it is not without risk." "What is it?" I asked. "A cleansing," he said, "a ritual to sever the thread between you and the place. But it must be done there, where it all started. In Alas Rowo, at 1 in the morning." My heart dropped. We would have to go back, again. This time, all of us. Together. The ritual would involve fire, water, salt, and memory. Each of us would bring an item that connects us to what we experienced. We would burn it, offer water to the earth, circle ourselves with salt, and speak our full names aloud under the moon. And if done correctly, the thread would break. But if interrupted, Bojonegoro said quietly, the bond would only grow stronger. That night, we prepared. I took the notebook with all our notes. Putri brought the small scarf she wore the night Guntur entered the forest. Raka carried his flashlight, the one that first lost signal. Guntur held a copy of the shattered mirror's frame. We agreed to meet near the edge of the forest the next night at midnight. As I packed my bag, I looked out the window. The wind was still, the sky dark, but I could feel it again. That presence, waiting, watching, just like in my dream. Midnight came faster than I expected. The night felt different, colder, heavier, like the air itself was holding its breath. We met at the edge of Alas Rowo, each of us holding our item, Guntur with the broken mirror frame, Putri with her scarf, Raka with his flashlight, and me with the notebook. Bojonegoro stood with us. This time, a small satchel hanging from his shoulder, filled with salt, incense, and a clay jug of water. He handed each of us a small white string and told us to tie it around our wrists, silently focusing on what we wanted to leave behind. The forest ahead looked darker than ever. The trees twisted the shadows deeper. We walked in without speaking, only the crunch of dry leaves beneath our feet and the sound of our breathing filled the air. At 12:45 a.m., we arrived at the clearing, the same place where it all began. Emba Joyo motioned for us to form a circle. He poured the salt in a wide ring around us, then lit the incense and placed it in the center. We set our items in front of us and knelt silently. "This place remembers," he said softly, "and tonight it must forget you. You must speak your truth, offer your memory, and leave nothing behind." At exactly 1 in the morning he began the ritual, chanting softly in Javanese words I didn't understand but felt deep in my bones. The flames flickered. The wind picked up. The trees swayed, though the sky above remained still. One by one we each stepped forward, spoke our names aloud, and placed our item into the small fire he had built in a clay bowl. The scarf burned quickly. The notebook blackened, the mirror frame cracked and hissed, the flashlight sparked once, then went dark. When Gunter stepped back, and the last item had burned, Imba Joyo raised the jug of water and slowly poured it into the earth. "May the thread be severed, may the watcher turn away, may the forest sleep again." Silence followed. No wind, no sound, no movement. Then suddenly the salt around us scattered as if something had stepped through it. The incense was blown out, and from the edge of the trees came a whisper. Not a laugh, not a scream, just a whisper that seemed to come from every direction at once. We all froze. Even MBA Joyo looked surprised. That should not have happened. He reached into his satchel and threw a final handful of salt into the air. The air shimmered like heat rising from pavement, and then everything went still again. The presence faded, the cold lifted, and the silence returned to normal. Slowly we stood. The fire was gone, the smoke vanished, the items now just ash. I felt something loosen in my chest, like a knot had been untied. Gunter breathed deeply for the first time all night. Raka looked around, blinking like waking from a long dream. Putri held her arms tightly, shivering, but not from fear, from relief. "It's done," Emba Joyo said quietly. "You may still dream, but it will fade. You may still feel eyes, but they will blink and turn away. You are not forgotten, but you are no longer held." We walked out of the forest, just as the first light of dawn began to creep into the sky. Birds started to sing. The air felt normal. For the first time in weeks, I believed we might be free. But as we reached the edge of the trees, I looked back once more. And in the deepest part of the forest, where light could not reach, I thought I saw something shift. Just for a moment. A shape. A shadow. Still watching. The days that followed were strangely quiet. Too quiet. Gunter stopped having nightmares. Putri could finally sleep without waking in cold sweat. Even Raka started laughing again like his old self. I tried to convince myself that it was really over. That whatever was watching had turned away. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Every now and then, I'd feel it again. Not fear, not a presence, just an absence. Like something had stepped back but hadn't left. Like it was crouching in the corner of my life, waiting. It was subtle. My dreams were no longer dark but silent. Empty fields, empty rooms, empty skies. Always alone. No voices, no shadows, just silence. One afternoon while walking past the Waring, I saw Bulastri sitting on the bench outside looking pale. She called me over quietly. I had a strange dream last night, she said without looking at me. In it I saw Gunter standing at the edge of the forest calling someone's name. But it wasn't his voice. It was hers. My stomach turned. Hers. The faceless woman. She shook her head and said something I couldn't ignore. That forest still holds one of you. It wasn't until that night I noticed it. Raka hadn't been responding to our group chats. He hadn't shown up at our usual spot. His house was locked when I checked the front gate. I asked his mother. She said he had been acting strange, locking himself in his room, saying he felt cold, even when the weather was hot. Then he started talking in his sleep. Words she didn't understand. Then the knocking came again. This time at the back door. And the mirror in the hallway cracked on its own. No one touched it. That was when she started getting scared. I called Guntur and Putri. We went straight to Raka's house that evening. His mother let us in quietly. His room was dark, the curtains drawn. He was sitting on the floor, staring at the wall, unmoving. Raka, I called. He didn't turn. Raka, it's us. Nothing. Then suddenly he spoke. Not loud, not angry. Just flat, empty. She said someone has to stay. She said it wasn't enough. Gunter stepped forward and knelt beside him. Raka, listen to me. We ended it, remember? We burned everything. We did the ritual. It's over. Raka turned slowly and looked at him. His eyes were blank. Not empty, just disconnected. She followed one of us home. She chose. My blood ran cold. Gunter and I helped lift him to the bed. He didn't resist. He didn't even blink. Putri stood near the window shaking. We need Imba. Joyo, she whispered. We rushed back to the old man's house. He was already standing at his gate. I know, he said simply. The ritual worked, but not fully. One of you brought something out. I told you. The forest remembers. And now it wants to keep balance. Then how do we fix it? I asked. He sighed. You don't fix it. You offer something in return. Not a person. A binding. A seal. Something made with intent and memory. Something that connects your group to the forest and tells it you will never return. A final farewell. A final promise. You must return one more time. Together. You must choose something to leave behind. And this time, if it fails, it will not let you leave again. The next night was the darkest I had ever seen. No moon. No stars. Even the crickets were silent. The village felt like it was holding its breath, waiting. We met at Rusha's house just before midnight. He was quiet, but alert now, his eyes no longer empty but filled with something else, something old and tired. I know what I have to do, he said calmly. But you're not doing it alone, I told him. None of us are. Gunter nodded. We started this together. We finish it together. Putri clutched a small wooden pendant she had carved herself, shaped like a leaf, the symbol of life and passage. We each brought something of value again, but this time not to destroy, not to burn, but to leave. To seal. MBA Joyo met us at the edge of the forest. He looked more serious than ever. If you want the forest to forget you, you must give it something it cannot return. Not fear, not apology. A piece of your story. A memory. A promise. We stepped into Alas Rowo one last time. This time not with fear, but with purpose. The wind felt heavy, like a breath being drawn in. The trees creaked, the ground pulsed beneath our feet. At the same clearing where we had done the ritual, the salt had vanished, the ash had scattered, but the air still remembered. We formed a circle. Mabajoyo stood at the center with a single wooden box carved with old symbols. One by one, we placed our offerings inside. Gunter laid a photograph of his family, a copy he always kept in his wallet. Putri placed her pendant. I gave the notebook I had carried since the beginning, filled with everything we had seen and felt. And Raka took off his bracelet, the one his late father gave him. He hesitated, but then nodded and dropped it in. With that, Mba Joyo closed the box and set it in the ground. He began chanting again, his voice firm and low. Earth to earth, memory to silence, thread to ash. Let the names be forgotten, let the eyes turn away. The wind howled louder. The trees bent toward us. From the darkness beyond the clearing, we heard them again, the whispers. But this time, we didn't freeze. We stood still, arms linked, eyes closed. Raka spoke aloud to the forest. We see you, we hear you, but we no longer walk your path. We give what is ours, and we ask for nothing more. Silence, then a shift in the air. The wind stopped. The ground went still. The weight in our chests lifted all at once. Mba Joyo looked up, his eyes wet. It is done. He took a deep breath. You will still remember, but the forest will not. We walked out together without looking back. Not once. When we reached the road, the village lights seemed brighter. The sky lighter. Even the air felt clean. We didn't speak much that night. Just hugged each other for the first time since this all began. A true quiet settled over the village in the days that followed. No more knocking, no more whispers, no dreams. Raka smiled again. Gunter slept deeply. Putri drew again. And I wrote. But never about her. Never about that place. The notebook was gone, and with it, the path back. But sometimes when the wind blows just right, and the night is too quiet, I still feel it. The forest listening, not watching. Just listening. Waiting. For someone to speak its name. Months passed. The air in the village grew lighter, the nights warmer, the trees less ominous. Life returned to its usual rhythm. School events, local markets, early morning chatter at the Waring. No one mentioned the forest. Not directly. But every now and then, I caught the older folks glancing toward the tree line when the wind changed or when the clouds thickened at night. I still hung out with Gunter, Raka, and Putri, though we never went near the edge of Alas Rowo again. It wasn't fear anymore, just a quiet agreement. Some places were meant to be left alone. One afternoon, while helping clean the old storeroom behind my house, I found something. A drawing. It was on old paper, faded and dusty, folded inside one of my high school notebooks. I didn't remember drawing it. It was a face. No eyes, no mouth, just an outline. And in the corner, a small note scribbled in my handwriting, even though I had no memory of writing it. She only borrows. I stared at it for a long time. Not scared. Just still. Something inside me knew that even though we had ended it, even though the forest had let us go, a part of it remained. Not to haunt us, but to remind us that darkness never really disappears. It just waits. One night I sat alone outside my house, watching the stars. It was quiet, peaceful. For the first time in a long time, I felt okay. Whole. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. One sentence. "Do you still remember the path?" I locked the screen immediately, heart racing. But I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because the answer was simple. Yes, I remember. But I will never return. The next morning I burned the drawing. Watched the paper curl, blacken, disappear into ash. And as the wind carried it away, I whispered, not a goodbye, but a promise, never again. And maybe somewhere in the deep silence beyond the trees, something heard me and simply turned away.
Tonight's story may have ended, but the whispers? Asterisk, they don't always stop. If you still feel like someone's watching, maybe you've gotten too close to the tale. Until the next whisper, only on Bizikan Tampa Suara.